And the Starcast is at the head of the grid. Jim Edwards Jr. and Rick Pearson, Henry Taylor and Matt Jackson on the first two rows of the grid. Then it's Jason Templeman and Daniel Buxton, David Gibson and Peter Sowerby, with Gary Townsend and Jim Edwards Sr. completing the top 10 ahead of Bob Smith, Martin Johnson, Paul Lomax, David Pearce, Mark Burton and Jan Prowse. And the added spice of a night race. And a superb start from Jim Edwards Jr. and a slow start from Rick Pearson drops him back into the pack. It's Henry Taylor up into second place. And down the inside of him, Matt Jackson's making his move as they head into Copse Corner. Rick Pearson fighting to hold on to fourth place. Behind him it's Daniel Buxton, David Gibson, Peter Sowerby and Jason Templeman. We're riding with Pearson now, and ahead of him it's wheel to wheel. Henry Taylor on the left, Matt Jackson on the right. And ahead of them both, Jim Edwards Jr. into Beckett's for the first time. Very tight corner this. Oh, that is a big squeeze if you're going side by side into the Inners Island S's. Henry Taylor gives ground. He doesn't want to afford to go off because that is what's happened to David Pearce, the man from Longfield in Kent. Rejoins at the tail of the pack. But at the head of the field, Jim Edwards Jr., well, the champion already. He said he wanted to make his mark on this race. He's certainly doing that. Matt Jackson in a good second place. Henry Taylor leaving room on the right though, and Rick Pearson tries to go down the inside. Henry Taylor closes the door. Oh, and that is heavy contact between the two cars. Henry Taylor's off across the gravel trap. Rick Pearson losing momentum as well, and that means now a new third place because Daniel Buxton's up to third place, Jason Templeman fourth, David Gibson, then Jim Edwards Sr. in sixth place. And it's like the M25 gone bonkers through Bridge Corner. But at the head of the field now, the pressure's starting to mount on Jim Edwards Jr. Matt Jackson pushing him every inch of the way. Jackson from Henley and Arden, fourth in the championship. He's got no worries about losing points here. There's a comfortable margin ahead of Rick Pearson in the series, so he can afford to go and race and play with Jim Edwards Jr. But Edwards Jr. again gets his head down through Woodcote Corner. Uses all that 180 brake horsepower of the tuned Renault Clio. These 2-litre engines absolutely singing on this very fast open circuit, the Silverstone International Circuit. 10 laps in this night race. At the end of lap 1, it's Jim Edwards Jr. from Matt Jackson, then Buxton, Templeman, Gibson and Edwards completing the top 6 as they head down into Beckett's Corner. Again, sparks striking under the cars as Jim Edwards rides the curbs and driving very aggressively, sliding a little bit wide. Daniel Buxton in the yellow car in third place. Holds on to his place though ahead of Jason Templeman in the number 10 car. But the duel battling at the head of the field, Edwards and Jackson. And Edwards again watching his mirrors, blocking carefully as they run up to the hairpin, giving Jackson no chance to dive down the inside, but his left is braking very late. And straight away the tail starts to slide. Beautiful car control from Jim Edwards Jr. And he stays on the power and keeps up the momentum. Jason Templeman challenging Buxton for third in the background, but it's wheel to wheel at the head of the field, and it's the yellow car goes ahead, takes the lead. Matt Jackson from fourth place on the starting grid, the race leader now from Jim Edwards Jr. And Daniel Buxton, Jason Templeman, David Gibson having a tremendous scrap for third just behind. Yellow car of Buxton, the silver car of Templeman, number 10, ahead of the red and blue car of David Gibson. And then it's Jim Edwards Sr. now in sixth position, closing in on them in his red and silver car. Headlights shining across the start-finish line, this time for Matt Jackson heading the field from Jim Edwards. And Jackson now getting his head down and charging, opening a bit of airspace between himself and the second place car, but it's wheel to wheel for third. And Jason Templeman jinks out of the slipstream of Daniel Buxton, just can't carry the momentum into Copse Corner. And that is giving the chance now for David Gibson to get a tidier run through Copse, and he's closing in on the run down to Beckett's. First, second, third, fourth and fifth, all absolutely locked together. Then is Jim Edwards Sr., the recovering Henry Taylor and Rick Pearson, 7th and 8th places, and Peter Sowerby's green car closing in on them in 9th. But at the head of the field, still Matt Jackson from Jim Edwards. And Edwards now having to watch his mirrors because Daniel Buxton and Jason Templeman are closing in every inch of the way. Oh, and superb late braking, rear wheel in the air. David Gibson springs the surprise on Jason Templeman, but he's running across the curbs and there's a nudge on the back bumper of the number 1 car. Templeman still has the momentum. Can he get any advantage on the run through Bridge Corner? The jinking one side, then the other. Daniel Buxton holds on to third. David Gibson holds on to fourth, but maybe not for long because Templeman tries one way, then tries the other. Still can't find a way past. Trying again, goes wide on the left-hander into Brooklands. Can't get the line there, tries now to get the better line on the double apex right-hander at left field. Rear wheel already cocked in the air on David Gibson's car, running very soft front suspension, and he's got the nose of the silver car rubbing on his rear bodywork. Absolutely superb cat and mouth stuff, but David Gibson holds on across the line for 4th place. Templeman currently settling for 5th, and closing in on them now, Jim Edwards Sr., Henry Taylor and Rick Pearson, another 4-car scrap. Still number 1, David Gibson in that 4th place, ahead of Jason Templeman, who's trying every which way. He's done just about everything but driving over the top of the number 1 Renault Clio. Still can't find a way past though. This is superb racing, and this track absolutely suits the handling of these cars. Flowing and fast. The driver's able to use every one of the 180 brake horsepower from the 2-litre engines. Battered bodywork on Jason Templeman's car, but he is still pushing very hard and closing in on the tail of Jim Edwards Sr. Henry Taylor making a big move now to recover from that first lap incident. As into the hairpin again, Gibson takes a beautiful tight defensive line, leaves Jason Templeman absolutely no room to go racing. And right behind them, the battle on between Jim Edwards Sr. and Henry Taylor, 6th and 7th places as well. Superb stuff. What a finale to the inaugural Elf Renault Sport Clio Cup race here at Silverstone. And it's wheel to wheel between 1 and 10 again. And wheel to wheel behind them, and a little bit of Biff body panels, and off! Off goes Jim Edwards Sr., fighting for control. Henry Taylor keeps it on the island. Superb car control. Rick Pearson's gone through though into 6th place. Peter Sauby now trying to find his way through into 7th position. Can Henry Taylor hold on in the 88 car? But it's wheel to wheel across the line as well. Tremendous action, has everyone at Silverstone on their feet. Jason Templeman, David Gibson, absolutely door handle to door handle into Cobb's Corner, and scything across the nose of the number 1 car goes Jason Templeman back up into that 4th place. That is about as hard earned as a 4th place can get. Leaders already through Beckett's Corner, Matt Jackson and Jim Edwards pulling away at the head of the field. These dogfights going on all the way up and down. The atmosphere of the night racing too, absolutely superb. Daniel Buxton still in 3rd. Then it's Templeman in number 10, David Gibson 5th, Rick Pearson in 6th and number 33, ahead of the recovering yet again Henry Taylor. Poor Henry Taylor must just be wondering what he needs to do to get those championship points, to get 2nd place in the championship. Taylor braked this to glow there. Still chasing the number 33 car. Rick Pearson is in 7th place. That should be enough to give him the championship, even though his championship rival, Daniel Buxton, is running in 3rd place. Meanwhile, heading around to cross the start-finish line, headlamps ablaze. Matt Jackson extending his lead now over Jim Edwards Jr. And who would have thought we'd see somebody finding the legs of the champion, Jim Edwards Jr., here at Silverstone. But Matt Jackson is doing this in absolutely superb form. The young man from Henley in Arden really demonstrating the pace that we knew he had all the way through the season. Edwards in 2nd place, Buxton in 3rd position. He may well be destined for 3rd in the championship. Jason Templeman in 4th place in that silver car, making a break now from the rest of the pack. And David Gibson has Rick Pearson closing in on him on the run up to Beckett's. And I suspect they've stumbled over one another there, because the car ahead is number 88, and that is Henry Taylor. And Henry Taylor ahead smokes his tyres there. David Gibson holds on to his place. 5th, 6th and 7th places now, and Henry Taylor is the man that is ahead of these two. So Henry Taylor really has done the job now, just what he needs to do, because he will be 2nd in the championship. Superb stuff for the man from Battle in East Sussex. Meanwhile, the battle is still going on here. Rick Pearson down the inside of David Gibson, but Gibson again getting a very tidy line out of the hairpin. Let's see whether he can get the power down earlier. Gibson this time loses a bit of ground. And Rick Pearson, flat out, listen to the engine note, just balancing the car on the power through Bridge Corner, sign of a superb handling car. And this is the battle for 10th and 11th places. Again, brake discs glowing red hot there on the brakes. Mark Hunt from Broughton Astley, 11th place, closing in on number 19, Martin Johnson, the care home owner from Alford in Lincolnshire. And he's not taking a lot of care of that Clio this time, absolutely flat out onto the curbs. A And a great battle on for 12th, 13th and 14th as well. Paul Lomax, Mark Burton and Simon Clark. Oh, and Burton's thrown it all the way. Stops the car from spinning by going onto the power. He'll keep the car running, but the man from Leamington Spa is not going to finish in that perhaps unlucky 13th place. He's down the pack now to 16th. And Rick Pearson is up to 5th, ahead of Henry Taylor. So it's all chop and change up and down the order. Pearson now 5th, Taylor again down to 6th, David Gibson 7th, Peter Sowerby there closing in 8th. But it's the Black Bomber from Battle closing in again on Rick Pearson. David Gibson closes in as well, and just look at the brake discs, absolutely red hot on these cars, being thrashed to the limit. 33 plays 88, plays 1, plays 11. There's your lottery numbers for next week. But who is guessing which of this lottery are going to come out in this order? Because down the inside, superb move by David Gibson. Can he hold on ahead of Henry Taylor? No, Taylor goes back alongside. Gibson just a little too late on the brakes, loses the momentum. Peter Sowerby has the grandstand view in the green Clio as they come up under Bridge Corner. And it's going to be absolutely wheel-to-wheel between Taylor and Gibson. And if I were Henry Taylor, I wouldn't be taking these chances. I'd be going for the championship points. This time Gibson goes through, he lets him through. Maybe he's going for that championship position, but there's a nudge on the tail from Sowerby. Oh, and it's a double whammy. Taylor gets the car back in a straight line, but now he's got a problem. He is in 8th place, and that won't be enough to give him 2nd in the championship as the checkered flag is waved for race winner Matt Jackson. A superb performance for the man from Henley and Arden. Jim Edwards Jr. ends his champion season in 2nd place. Daniel Buxton in 3rd, and that's going to be good enough for 2nd in the championship.
Hardest bit was at the start, really. We got a fairly good start and straight to 2nd on the first corner. Had a bit of a fight with Henry. We got it, and then from then on, it was me and Jim. We pulled away, and I knew that I had to get past him because I was a lot quicker than him. And he made a mistake down the back straight, and we went through. And then from then on, really, I just put my head down and made it stick.
No one person has sort of maintained a good pace through the season. And it's meant that there's been lots of different winners throughout the championship, and that's basically because the cars are so equal. I honestly believe there's a matter of tenths between the front and the last cars, and that's all credit to Renault, obviously.
I couldn't have done any more once I cleared the traffic. Jim and Matt Jackson were just too far in front for me to do anything about them. Started closing on Jim, but just ran out of laps.
A superb finale to a superb season for the Elf Clio Renault Sport UK Cup. A 45-point margin for Jim Edwards Jr. and Daniel Buxton taking 2nd by a single point.